Although you share more traits with those relatives with whom you're most genetically similar, let's say your parents and your brothers and sisters, this doesn't mean that your closest relatives, like your parents or siblings, share every trait that you have. And this diagram that we've constructed up to this point doesn't do a very good job at revealing which family members share which traits, right? We're not doing a good job of showing the relatedness of particular traits. Now, to combine this sort of family tree with the information about traits that we're interested in understanding, we're going to use a very special kind of diagram called a pedigree. Now, pedigrees are just an organized way of looking at family relations and traits. Females are symbolized with just a simple circle symbol, and males are symbolized with just a square. A single line drawn in between a male and female does not indicate marriage. I repeat, does not indicate marriage. It simply indicates that there were sexual relations, and a line coming downwards and then splitting into any number of more circles and squares simply indicates the number of children and whether or not they were sons, squares, or daughters, circles. And each new generation in the pedigree gets its own row. So here we have the children, the parents, the grandparents, the great-grandparents. Now, none of this is probably really unique to you from our family tree that we were looking at before, because we've got the relatedness of the family, the genetic relatedness, right? We can see the tiers, the organization, the male-female aspect of it. But what we're missing are trait relationships. And this is where pedigrees become immensely useful, because not only are these shapes indicative of something about this individual, the fact that they're male or female, but we can also shade them in to indicate whether or not the individual has a particular trait or not. So let's use an example, the trait of lactose intolerance, something we learned about in the last lesson, lesson 4. Now, the way this works is we want to represent the trait of lactose intolerance using our shading mechanism. If an individual is in fact lactose intolerant, we want to shade that individual shape, the circle or the square. And if they're not lactose intolerant, if they're lactose tolerant, right, they can actually digest milk products, then we're not going to shade the circle at all. We're going to leave it empty. It really is that simple. So let's try to build a pedigree for a particular individual concerning this trait of lactose intolerance. Meet Kate. Kate and her family have a European and Jewish ancestry. Kate is in fact lactose intolerant, but her brother is not. Neither of Kate's parents are lactose intolerant either. But her maternal grandfather and paternal aunt are intolerant. Remember, maternal grandfather means the grandfather on her mother's side, and paternal aunt means the aunt on her father's side. Using all of this information, I want you to tell me which of the following pedigrees represents Kate's family and the trait of lactose intolerance. Now, only one of these 5 pedigrees can be right, and the only way you'll be able to figure it out is if you understand what the symbols mean in the pedigree and what the shading means. Hopefully this isn't too hard, and go ahead and give it your best shot.